Good Saturday morning, everybody. Chris and Tiffany with High Seas Cruising, and we are back. We are back with this week's episode of...
Oh my God, what's it called?
What Every Cruiser Wants. You know what? I'm going to leave that in the video. Tiffany said, what's that called? Okay, but enough. This is not supposed to be comedy. This is supposed to be a serious episode where we talk about real cruise comments written into cruise lines or about cruise lines. We're going to do something a little different today. We've got some comments. We actually have some complaints that were written in about cruise lines. But I'm going to be honest with you up front. A lot of these clearly show that people either don't do research, don't read what they sign up for, or really they're first-time cruisers and maybe they just don't know how things work on cruise ships. But let's get into today's comments, and that way we can all decide together, are these people right or are these people wrong? So we're going to start off today with an oldie but a goodie, because this one has actually come up before. There are certain places, certain countries that cruise ships go to, and there are certain clothes that you cannot wear when you go to those countries. Do you know an example off the top of your head of something you can't wear in another country?
Camo.
Exactly. Where can you not wear camo? Do you remember any of the exact places?
Bahamas.
The Bahamas. That is a good example of where camouflage is not allowed. Okay. Now, if you do a little checking and you do a little research, they'll flat up tell you you can't wear camo in some of these Caribbean countries. Why? Because that's their military. They don't allow their people to wear it. They don't allow tourists to wear it. It's a rule. Okay. But this cruise passenger, well, they got a little upset because they wore camouflage someplace that they shouldn't. On November 3rd, while on Venzia, I was marched back to the ship like a common criminal by the Barbados police. Why? Because I was wearing camo shorts and a camo backpack. Where was Carnival's notice on this? Nobody told us at all. No compensation given. We were not rebels or terrorists to the government, but we were made to feel like we were. Now, for this particular comment, I will say there are two sides to this story. Okay? Now, first and foremost, as a passenger, as a person traveling to someone else's country, you are ultimately responsible to know the rules of the place you're going. There are, like we said at the beginning, there are places down in the Caribbean you cannot wear camouflage. And if you're going to visit Barbados or any other place, outside of the United States, it is in your best interest to look up real quickly, just Google, what can I not do in Barbados? What is illegal in Barbados? Give it a quick browse and know in your mind what you can and cannot do. Because the bottom line here is it's illegal for you to do it in that country. You did it. They escorted you back to the cruise ship. They didn't treat you like a terrorist. They didn't treat you like some kind of rebel. Okay, but you broke the law. Okay, even if it's a minor law, the law was still broken. You were brought back to the cruise ship. That's all that happened. And no, you should not get compensation because you wore the wrong kind of clothes in a cruise port. At least that's what I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, but I also agree there is a second part to this. As this cruise passenger was getting off the ship, would it really have been all that much for the security when you scan your card out to go, excuse me, you can't wear those here? Would it have been so much for Carnival just to say, hey, sir, you probably shouldn't wear those? Yeah. Maybe they should put in their, fun times, hey, going to Barbados tomorrow, here's a couple things you can't do. Is it really all that extra to expect that from a cruise line? So I said there's two sides to that story. What do you think?
I think so too. And then, putting that in there is great, a great idea. But at the same time, are you going to read it? Are the passengers going to read it? Maybe put a blip on their app, this is where we're going to be. This is some of the laws, no camo.
Right. And of course, it doesn't mean anybody's going to read it. They can put it out on an announcement. Doesn't mean everybody will hear it or pay attention to it. But I think at least then Carnival could say, hey, we 100% warned you. You didn't listen. And now this is the consequence. Like I said, all they did was actually get escorted back to the ship. And no, I don't think you should get compensation for breaking the rules. No. I don't think you should be compensated for breaking a law in the country you visit. But I also think Carnival could have maybe warned them a little bit. But what do you guys think? Do you think the cruise line should give people advance warning on something like this? Or do you think, is this person owed compensation for breaking the rules of a foreign country they visited? Let us know. Now this one here, this is one of those ones where I think it's a first-time cruiser or perhaps someone who doesn't know the way things work on cruise ships. This has been a cruise tip from many content creators, and that is, when you get on a cruise ship, you put your phone in airplane mode.
I've done a tip on that.
Tiffany's done a tip on that. This is something you do because, and the reason that's said is because cruise ships do have essentially what is a cell tower on board the ship. And if you leave your phone out of airplane mode, it very well may connect to this and it may, start doing its thing just like it was on land. With the exception of if you're doing it on a cruise ship and you're doing it at sea, it's about to get pricey. More than one story of people coming back home and finding out they suddenly got a very high phone bill. All right, and this person right here, well, it happened to them too. I was on land in blank and connected to a blank network. I received large charges from the Royal Caribbean ship's maritime service instead. I have roaming through blank, so it should have been free. I did not sign up for the phone option on the ship, and it should not have connected to them at all. To me, these are fraudulent charges and should be refunded. All right, so basically what this means is their phone was not in airplane mode. It connected to the ship's cell antenna, and it conducted its business just like it always would. There is nothing for you to sign up for. There is nothing the ship says, well, you have to sign this or agree to this to use this particular service. It's no different than a cell service you would get in the States, with the exception, of course, of all of the wonderful extra charges that come along with it. It is your responsibility to know where your phone is connecting. It is your responsibility to put it in airplane mode. The only way it can connect to that antenna, and the only way it can conduct data across that antenna, is if you allow it to do so. That's the bottom line. The cruise line has no control over that. The cruise line does not control any charges that come over that. All of that is done through your service carrier. So, unfortunately, no, those are not fraudulent charges. And no, the cruise line isn't responsible for refunding that. I'm sorry, if you leave your phone out of airplane mode and it connects and does all its business, how is that the cruise line's fault?
It's not. That's where the consumer needs to know what their plan covers and carries. And it did say he was on land and connected, but does he have service in that country?
Well, here's a difference too. Let's say you get off in a cruise port and you're like right there in the cruise port. Your phone is going to connect to the closest and strongest signal. So if the ship was still the closest and strongest signal, that's what it's going to connect to. In this particular comment, it doesn't say that he's, X number of miles away. It just says he's on land. Well, that very well could be, right there in the cruise port. And if that's the strongest pushing signal, that's what your phone is going to, that's what your phone's going to connect to.
Yeah.
That's just how telephones and that sort of stuff works. So again, put your phone in airplane mode. That way you never get these kinds of charges. That's just the best answer to this. But let's throw it out there to you guys. Do you think these were fraudulent charges? Do you think the cruise line is responsible and owes them any type of refund? Or as a consumer and the owner of that phone, it's really his responsibility that he didn't know how it worked or have it in airplane mode. Next up, the non-refundable policy. Again, people book things and I don't think that they read everything that they book. But in this particular case, I'm sorry, non-refundable deposit means non-refundable deposit. It doesn't mean I booked a non-refundable deposit, but this happened to me and now I want my money back. That's not how non-refundable works. Cruise lines just can't do that. You can't book something non-refundable, call them up and go, yeah, but, this happened or this changed or this or that. So you should just, understand and be nice and give me my money back. Sure, maybe that'd be great if that's how the world worked, but that's not how it works. No. And non-refundable means non-refundable. I canceled a cruise due to a divorce, and am seeking 100% refund of my $500 deposit, which was from March of 2023. The inflexibility of this cruise line is unacceptable, and it makes me not want to use them again. Now, in this particular case, the cruise line did respond, and the cruise line said, you booked this under a non-refundable room category. So that's what it was. It was non-refundable. So no, when they called and they canceled, they're not going to get their deposit back. Again, that's what non-refundable means. I don't understand how that is so confusing. And I'm sorry, you're going through a divorce. That was unexpected. You're obviously not going to take this cruise with the individual you're divorcing. That's understandable. But non-refundable, unfortunately, still means non-refundable. And looking at it from the cruise line's point of view, they can't make an exception for every single person, because then every single person will have a reason to have an exception. You do it for one, you got to do it for everybody, and then I guarantee you everybody will expect it. Hence the non-refundable policies. What makes me kind of laugh the most, though, is the fact they say the cruise line is inflexible and it will make me never want to use them again. A little warning up front here for you. All of the cruise lines have a non-refundable policy if you book a non-refundable room. And there is a difference between refundable and non-refundable. But no matter what cruise line you book, non-refundable means non-refundable.
Yeah.
And none of them are giving their money back.
No.
I mean, is there any confusion as to what non-refundable means to you?
No, there's no confusion as to non-refundable. But if I had booked a non-refundable room and learned I wasn't getting my deposit back, I'd have found somebody else to go with.
Exactly. Change the name on the cruise, you know. I know sometimes there's a name change fee, but still cheaper than losing all of your money. But like always, let's ask you guys, are you confused on the non-refundable policy? And I know we've talked about this recently. You know, do you think the cruise lines are inflexible when it comes to their non-refundable policy? Is it unacceptable? And would it make you look for another cruise line, even though they all have it? And finally, everybody's favorite subject out there, at least one that creates all kinds of controversy, that's gratuities. Gratuities is a hot subject. It always is. There are plenty of people that are happy to prepay them. There are folks that say they remove the gratuities to pay in cash. There's a whole group of people that want them added to the cruise fare and not even have to deal with them at all. Like I said, how people feel about gratuities kind of lands all over the place. But if you're new to cruising, they charge gratuities. It's a certain amount per person, per day, depending on your cruise lines. They average anywhere, between $16 and $20. Depends again on your cruise line and the category of cabin that you booked. But all of the cruise lines, with the exception of ones like Virgin Voyages, which is automatically included in the cruise fare, they all have some form of gratuity like this. Now, if you don't prepay these gratuities, they automatically charge them to you at the end of your cruise on your sign and sail account, your shipboard account. But for this person, apparently they didn't know that that was going to happen and are a little surprised that they got charged for gratuities. I am complaining about a charge of $1,316.44 on April 2023. Specifically, I am complaining about $1,150 that was charged as gratuity. I never authorized this charge. I informed customer service that I did not recognize or authorize the charge before I got off the ship, and the representative simply shrugged and said it was a company policy. Gratuities are voluntary, not mandatory. If it is indeed a mandatory charge, then why did they not charge it when they initially charged my credit card 2 months before the cruise? I am requesting a refund of $1,150 and for Royal Caribbean to stop using this immoral practice. All right, let's break this one on down. So you did not authorize Royal Caribbean to charge you the gratuities at the end of your sailing? Well, believe it or not, that's wrong. You absolutely did authorize them to charge that the second you booked that cruise. It's in the cruise contract. So as soon as you booked that cruise, you upfront agreed to those gratuities. You agreed that they were going to be charged to you. So you can't say you didn't authorize it. Yes, you did. You just didn't do the research and read the fine print. Cruise lines do automatically charge these, but they are not mandatory. They technically are voluntary, I guess, because you can go down to guest services and have them removed. That can be done. People do it. They say they tip in cash. Not saying they do. Not saying they don't. So I guess technically, you know, they are voluntary. But if you do nothing and you say nothing, they're going to charge you at the end of the cruise. Now, she also said, well, why didn't they charge me at the beginning? Well, guess what? That option was there as well. There's a little box. Whenever you book your cruise, it says, do you want to prepay your gratuities? Mm-hmm. Right?
Yes. I've seen you check that box.
I always check that box because I don't want to pay it at the end. I'd rather pay it up front. That way I don't have to worry about it. That way it doesn't appear on my card at the end. For some reason, paying things early just makes it feel like you're not paying as much when you're on the ship.
Yes.
I know it's not true, but it's a mental game, and I play the mental game here.
Cruising math.
It's cruise math, that's right. If I prepay the gratuities, then they were free on the ship. Cruise math. So, yes, you agreed to the gratuities. Yes, you had the option to prepay them. So the cruise ends, you get charged the gratuities. Now you're upset? I don't know. I mean, what do you think?
I think if she was that upset about it, going to the service desk and talking to the representative, if she didn't get the answer she wanted, she could have asked for somebody else and eventually gotten them removed.
She could have. I don't know that the guest services volunteers that information. They're like, oh, you didn't know about it? Well, here, let's take them off for you. I don't think that is their first response.
No, because
I think you have to specifically say, I want to remove the gratuities for this reason. And I say I think because I've never actually gone down and tried to remove the gratuities. I know you can go down there. I know you can ask. I know it can be done. But since I've never done it, I don't know exactly how they word it. I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy. But there you go. Another example of someone who doesn't fully understand what they booked, didn't read everything that they booked, didn't do any research on cruising ahead of time. That's where we keep getting this stuff where, you know, non-refundable. Where's my non-refundable refund? Why is my phone bill higher when I get home? Why am I wearing clothes that I'm not supposed to wear in places that I visit? And why am I charged for gratuities in my cruise? I knew nothing about this. It's all over the cruise line's websites. They don't hide this gratuity thing. No. Okay? People that cruise are not quiet about this gratuity thing. So it's not like it's a big giant secret. Yeah. But like always, let's throw it over to you guys. What do you guys think? Should she be refunded for the gratuity she was charged on board the ship? Or as a cruiser who had the opportunity to prepay, if that was a thing, did have the opportunity to have them removed, maybe she just didn't know, and obviously she didn't do any research ahead of time, is she actually entitled to having those refunded? Let me know what you guys think about all of today's comments below.
Yes.
So what did you think about today's comments? What is your takeaway from all of that?
Research. Do your research.
I agree. Do your research. Hey, there's lots of people out there on YouTube that talk about this kind of stuff. You know, oddly enough, that's us. We have tons of tips videos out there that talk specifically about these exact things. Even if you don't use us, do a little cruise research ahead of time. Believe me, it's going to save you some headaches later on. And if you still don't understand, reach out to the cruise line before your cruise. Mm-hmm. Get the answers. Know before you go. All right, and that is going to be our video today for what every cruiser wants. Hope you guys have enjoyed today's video. If you have, do me a favor and hit that like button. If you haven't done so yet, do me a favor and hit subscribe. It is free to do so. Helps our channel grow. Let you know anytime we put out a new video so you guys don't miss our wonderful What Every Cruiser Wants. Hope everyone out there is having a really great day. And like always,
we'll see you out on the high seas.